It was meant to be a simple act of affection, a harmless mark between young lovers. But for one teenager in Mexico City, that small gesture would end his life before it had even begun. In August of 2016, 17-year-old Julio Macias Gonzalez lived in Iztapalapa, Mexico City. He was dating a 24-year-old woman, despite his parents' warnings. One evening, after spending time with her, Julio returned home with a hickey on his neck. Later that night, while eating dinner with his family, he suddenly collapsed and began convulsing. Paramedics arrived quickly, but Julio was pronounced dead at home. Doctors initially called it a stroke, an unusual cause for someone his age. An autopsy revealed the real reason. The hickey had ruptured a small blood vessel, forming a clot that traveled to his brain and blocked blood flow. Such cases are extremely rare, but not impossible. A similar incident in 2011 involved a 44-year-old woman who survived after treatment. Julio didn't. After his death, his girlfriend disappeared. Authorities never confirmed her involvement, and her whereabouts remain unknown. Experts say a hickey can, in rare cases, damage neck arteries and cause clots that travel to the brain or heart. For most people, it's harmless, but for Julio, it was fatal. He was only 17, taken by something no one could have imagined. Stay tuned, because what began as a fatal kiss in Mexico is nothing compared to what came next. In India, love would take a darker turn, one that ended in betrayal, dismemberment, and a secret buried in the woods. It was the evening of May 18, 2022 in New Delhi, India. Inside a rented apartment in Chhatarpur, 27-year-old Shraddha Walkar and her partner, Aftab Poonawalla, seemed to live a normal life. But behind closed doors, their friendship had turned violent. Shraddha and Aftab met in 2019 while working at a call center in Mumbai. She left college to move in with him against her family's wishes. Friends later said Aftab abused her, and whenever she tried to leave, he threatened self-harm to make her stray. On May 18th, during another argument, Aftab lost control and strangled Shraddha to death. Then, in a calculated effort to hide the crime, he dismembered her body into 35 pieces, storing them in a refrigerator. For 18 nights, he dumped the remains in Mirali Forest under the cover of darkness. Inside the apartment, he used incense and chemicals to hide the smell, cleaned the scene, and disposed of her belongings. He even used Shraddha's phone and social media accounts to send fake messages, pretending she was still alive. By August of 2022, her friends grew suspicious when her phone went off and messages stopped. One friend, Laksham Nadar, alerted her family. Her father, Vikas Walkar, searched for her and, finding her Delhi apartment locked, filed a missing person report in Mumbai. The case was transferred to Delhi police, who traced her last known contact to Aftab. He first denied everything, but later confessed. He led police to Miroli Forest, where 13 decomposed body parts were recovered. DNA tests confirmed they belonged to Shraddha. Aftab was arrested on November 12, 2022, and jailed in the Tihar prison. Police filed a 6,629-page charge sheet, backed by forensic evidence and witness testimony. In 2024, a court ruled that Aftab would be treated like any other inmate. The case shocked India. It sparked debates on live-in relationships, online dating, and women's safety. But above all, it highlighted a deeper issue: the failure to protect a woman trapped in abuse until it was too late. Shraddha's story remains a tragic reminder. Silence can be deadly, and love when built on fear, can turn fatal. Subscribe for more real true crime stories that reveal the dark truths behind ordinary lives. Up next, from obsession to intimidation, a new kind of danger emerges, not from passion, but from a viral challenge no one was ready for. One dare, one inhale, and an 11-year-old's heart stops cold. On March 2, 2024, in Lancaster, England, 11-year-old Tommy Lee Gracie Billington was spending the night at a friend's house. During the sleepover, he attempted a dangerous social media challenge known as chroming, inhaling fumes from household products like deodorant or paint. Moments later, he collapsed and went into cardiac arrest. At 12:04 a.m., emergency services arrived to find him unresponsive. Despite efforts to revive him, Tommy Lee was pronounced dead at the hospital. Police initially called the death unexplained, but his family later confirmed he had inhaled toxic fumes as part of a viral trend. His grandmother, Tina Burns, shared the news online, warning others about the deadly challenge. Experts say chroming, also known as huffing or sniffing, deprives the brain of oxygen and can cause instant death. Although solvent-related deaths in the UK have dropped from 152 in 1990 to 38 in 2020, authorities fear social media could reverse that progress. Tommy's Lee family is now urging stricter age limits on social platforms and greater accountability for harmful content. He was only 11 years old. One moment of curiosity ended his life. Next, a courtroom full of spectators watches justice unfold. But what they didn't see was the defendant's final act, a calculated escape from guilt that would leave everyone stunned. In a Phoenix courtroom on June 28, 2012, former Wall Street trader Michael Marin sat motionless as the jury entered. He'd once lived a millionaire's life: luxury cars, fine art, mountain climbs. But that morning, all of it was gone. The verdict was read: guilty. Marin covered his face and slipped something into his mouth. He took a sip of water. Seconds later, his body began to tremble. Then, he collapsed. Paramedics rushed in, but by the time he reached the hospital, it was over. At first, everyone thought it was a heart attack, but the truth was far darker. Hours later, Marin's son received a pre-scheduled email, a goodbye message. It included details about Marin's will and where to find his car. Inside the trunk, investigators found a small container labeled cyanide. Tests confirmed it. Marin had poisoned himself right there in court. So who was Michael Marin? Born in 1958, raised in Washington State, he was brilliant, ambitious, and driven. He studied law at Yale and made millions on Wall Street, working for top firms like Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch. Outside of work, he lived large: private planes, art collections, even climbed Mount Everest in 2001. To the world, he looked unstoppable. But when the 2008 real estate crash hit, his empire began to crumble. His $3.5 million Phoenix mansion became a financial trap with a $17,000 a month mortgage he couldn't keep up with. Then, in July 2009, the mansion caught fire. Marin escaped dramatically, calling 911 and climbing out a window with a rope ladder. But investigators soon found multiple ignition points, accelerants, and valuables already removed. It wasn't a rescue story. It was arson. Marin was charged with setting his own house on fire for the insurance payout. And during the trial, prosecutors revealed something chilling. He'd bought sodium cyanide a year earlier. 3 years later, the jury found him guilty. He knew what came next: prison, disgrace, and the end of everything he'd built. So he made his own ending, right there in the courtroom. Michael Marin's final act wasn't panic. It was a plan, a way to stay in control, one last time. Coming up, a tragedy caught on camera, a father, a stroller, and a single act of violence that turned an ordinary coffee run into a national nightmare. It was a calm Sunday afternoon in downtown Vancouver, March 26, 2023. Outside a Starbucks on West Pender and Granville Streets, 37-year-old Paul Stanley Schmidt walked with his 3-year-old daughter, while his fiancée, Ashley Umali, went inside to order drinks. Nearby, 32-year-old Inderdeep Singh Gasal was vaping close to the stroller. Paul politely asked him to stop, a simple request any parent might make. The exchange escalated within seconds. Gasal pulled out a knife and stabbed Paul in the neck, in full view of bystanders and his little girl. It happened in broad daylight at one of Vancouver's busiest intersections. Paul collapsed on the pavement as witnesses rushed to help. Police arrived around 5:40 p.m. Paramedics took him to the hospital, but he didn't survive. Gasal was arrested at the scene and later charged with second-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty and remains in custody as the case proceeds. A fundraiser organized after the attack raised over $165,000 to support Ashley and their daughter Erica. For the Schmidt family, that day will never fade. A father lost in an act of senseless violence while protecting his child. Click on the next video to see more shocking videos.